Hello everyone, welcome to this channel where for the next 2.5 months, next 75 days, I will be posting regular videos, one chapter every day. Let's start the NEET preparation, and in today's video, we will be studying about the human reproduction. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, be with me and you will be getting to know all the things from this chapter. Let's begin. The first thing, let's study the steps of reproduction. The reproduction starts from gametogenesis. Gametogenesis is the formation of gametes in male and female. Then you have insemination. Insemination is basically transfer of sperms into the female reproductive tract. Then you have fertilization. When a sperm enters through vagina and cervix into the oviduct, the other name of oviduct is fallopian tube. From vagina, cervix, and then to the fallopian tube, over there the fertilization takes place. After fertilization, we have implantation. In implantation, when the ovum is fertilized, it is converted into zygote. When the ovum is fertilized, it is converted into zygote, and zygote gets converted into embryo. And now how you can remember it? Zygote ends with E. The other thing which is formed from zygote will start from E. Embryo. Now embryonic development takes place inside the uterus, and this is known as the gestation period, where the embryonic development takes place. After this, we have parturition. Now quickly bring your NCERT, because from now onwards, whatever I am speaking you have to write it on the space, the empty space which is there on the page. So there are two testes we know. Each testis has 250 compartments. Each testis has how many? 250 compartments. And these compartments are known as testicular lobules. 250 compartments known as testicular lobules. Now in these 250 compartments, these are divided into 1 to 3 highly coiled. These 250 testicular lobules are into 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules. Testicular lobules 250, and in each of them we have 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules. These seminiferous tubules are inside. On the inside, they are lined by two things. One are the male germ cells, and second are the Sertoli cells. The male germ cells and the Sertoli cells. The male germ cells are converted into sperms. The male germ cells are converted into sperms by the meiotic division. And what happens to the Sertoli cells? Sertoli cells provides nutrition to the germ cells. Sertoli cells provides nutrition to the germ cells. Inside, we have talked about, they are lined by two things. Outside the seminiferous tubules, they have the interstitial cells, and the interstitial cells have small blood vessels. The interstitial cells have small blood vessels, or we can say they are Leydig cells which are present, which generate the testicular hormones which are known as androgens. Now let's talk about the male accessory ducts. We have 4 male accessory ducts which are rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, and vas deferens. And how you can remember them? With the help of a mnemonic, that is REED. REED. R stands for rete testis, E stands for epididymis, E stands for vas efferentia, and last D stands for vas deferens. These are the 4 male accessory ducts. Now let's talk about the male accessory glands. We have 4 male accessory ducts, and we have 3 male accessory glands which are there in the book. And how you can remember it? With the help of a mnemonic, which is State Bank of Patiala. Let's say there is a state bank in Patiala. So S stands for seminal plasma, B stands for bulbourethral, and P stands for prostate. B, S, B and P. Now just remember that the first two, that is S and B, state bank, they are paired glands. Both of them are paired when I talk about the first two of them. Then if we talk about the secretion of bulbolateral gland, the secretion of bulbolateral gland help in the lubrication of penis. They help in the lubrication of penis. Now we have somewhat understand about the male reproductive system. Let's now see a little bit few things about the female reproductive system which are there in the NCERT book. Now the main part of the female reproductive system, let's understand it from the diagram itself. Firstly, there are two ovaries on either side. There are two ovaries, one on each side. The ovaries from the oviduct, the other name of oviduct is fallopian tube. There are ovaries. For example, on one side there is one ovary. It will lead from the fallopian tube, oviduct, to what? It will lead to uterus. So uterus will lead to cervix and cervix will lead to vagina. The stroma inside near the ovary is divided into two parts, the peripheral cortex and inner medulla. How will you remember the peripheral cortex and inner medulla? Just remember I am. From I am, just remember I stands for inner, M stands for medulla. I am inner medulla, and then you have PC, that is peripheral cortex. Now what I have told you, that the ovum, the egg, is produced inside the ovary. Now from the ovary, this via the fallopian tube or the oviduct is ready for fertilization. Let's take a scenario where the sperms are available over there. So the sperms are now available inside the place, that is oviduct or the fallopian tube. When the sperm is there, ovum is there, the fertilization takes place. When the fertilization takes place over there, a zygote is formed. What is formed? The zygote is formed when the fertilization takes place. And now when the zygote is formed, after the zygote, I've told you this in the initial part of the video, that zygote ends with a E. So another thing that will make from zygote will something which starts with E, that is embryo. Now the embryo will make, and embryo will lead to what? The implantation inside the uterus. Okay, so now the implantation took place in the uterus. Now there are three parts of the fallopian tube. I have told you the fertilization takes place inside the fallopian tube. There are three parts of the fallopian tube, and how you can remember it with the example. A lot of you now must have heard of the artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence stands for AI. Just remember IAI. First I stands for isthmus, A stands for ampulla, and then I stands for infundibulum. So we have isthmus, ampulla and infundibulum. And it also starts, if you go from the uterus towards the ovary, from the uterus towards the ovary, the first part is isthmus, then ampulla and then infundibulum, in the way we have done with the mnemonic. So IAI, isthmus, ampulla and infundibulum. Then you have certain finger-like structures which help in the ovulation, that is known as fimbriae. Fimbriae are the structures, finger-like structures which are there near the ovary. Okay, now we have studied something about the male reproductive organ, something about the female reproductive organ. Now let's talk about the uterus. Uterus, we know, is a place where the baby where the baby is produced and the gestation takes place, the embryonic development takes place, right? The other name of uterus is also the womb. And what's the shape of uterus? That is inverted pear. That is inverted pear. Now the uterus, we know, opens into vagina via the cervix, right? And there is a cervical canal along with vagina is known as the birth canal. So uterus, you have cervix and vagina, and cervix along with the vagina is known as the birth canal. Is that clear? I hope that's clear. And you have to write all these things in the space which is given on the corner of the book. Each page you have some space, you have to write the information over there. You don't need any other book, right? Now there are three layers of uterus. One is the outermost layer, that is perimetrium. Peri means periphery, right? Simple. Peri means periphery. At the periphery, that means perimetrium. Then you have middle layer. Middle starts with M. Another layer which is middle is myometrium, that also starts with M. And then you have endometrium. Just remember, in Hindi we can say andar ki taraf. That means endometrium. In the inside, it is the endometrium, which is a glandular layer. Now, when the cyclic changes happens during the menstrual cycle, what happens? The endometrium is getting disturbed, or it is getting affected by that, and myometrium have strong contraction when the baby is produced. Endometrium during the periods and myometrium when the baby is born. So middle layer is affected the most when the baby is born, and the innermost layer is affected when the periods are happening. Now that we have studied a little bit about the female reproductive tract, let's study a little bit in detail about the female external genitalia, and more specifically let's study about little bit about vagina. So in vagina there is the outermost structure, that is mons pubis. The outermost structure is the mons pubis. After mons pubis there is labia majora. Labia majora is nothing but the fleshy folds. Fleshy folds is nothing but labia majora. Then you have very important thing, paired folds. Now we talk about, after labia majora, we will talk about labia minora. Labia minora, it is written as there are paired folds. You have the outer structure, then you have labia majora, and then you have labia minora. After that, you have two more things. One is hymen and second is clitoris. Hymen and clitoris. Hymen is often break down during the first intercourse. I hope that's perfect. Now let's quickly study about the mammary gland. And while we are studying about the mammary gland, I'll tell you one more mnemonic how you can remember it. So mammary gland, the first thing is nipple. That's simple, right? After nipple, how will you remember? Just see the diagram while I'm speaking this. Just see the diagram of mammary gland. I'll also try to put it over here. So it starts with lactiferous duct. After that you have ampulla, and then you have mammary duct, then you have mammary alveolus and mammary lobe. There is a word in Hindi which is known as ladla. Okay, it is LADLA. Instead of LADLA, just remember it LADAL. So there is a word LADAL. So for the first L stands for lactiferous duct, A stands for ampulla, D stands for lactiferous duct, then the other A stands for mammary alveolus, and the last L stands for the mammary lobe. Then you have fat inside the mammary gland, which is of variable amount. Okay, at the end you have pectoralis major muscles, and there are muscles between the ribs which are present over there, which is there in the diagram also, if you can see. And how many mammary lobes are there? There are 15 to 20 of mammary lobes. Now let's study about how the sperms and the ovum is produced. Let's talk about the gametogenesis. We have studied about the primary sex organs in female. If you remember, let's put it in the comment section. Now let's talk about the primary sex organs in male. Let's talk about the primary sex organs in male, and I'll also put it in the section over here. So the testes in males and the ovaries in female. So what happens in testes? The spermatogonia is also known as the immature germ cell. The spermatogonia, which is also known as the immature germ cell, produce sperms. Spermatogonia produce sperms with the help of, tell me the process, in 3, 2, 1, and the process is spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis is the process from which the spermatogonia produce the sperms. Now let's talk about the gametogenesis. I'll also write on the screen and I'll lower up myself. So the primary sex organs are testes in males and ovaries in female. In testis, there are immature germ cells which are spermatogonia, which produce the sperms by spermatogenesis. Now, what happens? Some of the spermatogonia, which are known as primary spermatocytes, undergoes meiosis. Primary spermatocytes, they undergo meiosis and they lead to the first reductional division, leading to secondary spermatocytes. Now it is a meiotic division from 46. Now it will become to 23 chromosomes. After that, the second meiotic division takes place, which leads to production of spermatids. How many spermatids are formed? 4 haploid spermatids are formed. Primary spermatocyte, the secondary spermatocyte, and then the spermatids are formed. Now the spermatids are converted into spermatozoa. From spermatids to spermatozoa, which are also known as the sperms, by the process of spermiogenesis. Primary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte. After that, you have spermatid, and from spermatid you have spermatozoa, which is also the sperms, and this process is the spermiogenesis. After spermiogenesis, the Sertoli cells play an important role, and the sperm heads become embedded in the Sertoli cells, which you have also studied in the initial part of the chapter. And after, the sperms are finally released by the process of spermiation. By the process of spermiation, the sperms are finally released from the male. Now what happens? There are certain hormones that we'll study about. The first hormone that we'll study about is the GnRH, which is gonadotropin releasing hormone, which shows a significant increase. And it is also a hypothalamic hormone. Now what happens when this GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, increases? It has the effect on the anterior pituitary gland, and which stimulates release of two hormones, which is LH and the FSH. LH stands for luteinizing hormone and the FSH stands for follicular stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone and the follicular stimulating hormone. LH starts with L. They act on something which also starts with L, that is the Leydig cells, and after Leydig cells, the androgens are getting produced. So this is something about the gametogenesis. Now let's quickly study about the sperms. There are 3 main parts of sperms: the head, the middle piece, and the tail. The head, the middle piece, and the tail. Middle piece is where the mitochondria is present, and what does mitochondria do? It helps to facilitate the sperm motility for fertilization. This is what the mitochondria, the middle piece, does. Now there is the whole sperm is covered by what? The plasma membrane. The whole sperm is covered by the plasma membrane, and the head of the sperm has elongated haploid nucleus. The head of the sperm has elongated haploid nucleus, and the whole body of sperm is by the plasma membrane. In the acrosome helps in the fertilization with the enzymes which are present over there, and it also has an anterior cap-like structure, sort of cap-like structures. Now, in every ejaculation, nearly 200 to 300 million sperms are formed. 200 to 300 million sperms are formed, and out of them, 60%, out of the 200 to 300 million that I am talking about, 60% should be normal shape and size. How many? 60. And 40% should be of vigorous motility. 40% should be of vigorous motility, and the 60% should have normal shape and size. Now let's talk about the menstrual cycle. Okay, in menstrual cycle, it generally takes place once a month. We all know it takes place once a month, and it is of 28 to 29 days. There are two parts of menstrual cycle, the menarche and the menopause. One is the starting and this is the ending. Menopause is the ending and menarche is the starting of the menstrual cycle. So what happens in the menstrual cycle? I will lower up myself now and I'll share the screen. So during the menstrual cycle, the menstrual flow occurs for 3 to 5 days. For 3 to 5 days, which results due to the breakdown of the endometrial lining of the uterus. If you remember, when I was talking about the 3 linings of uterus, the middle lining was endometrium. So endometrial lining, when it breaks, the blood comes out. After that, we will study about the follicular phase. The first phase was in menstruation, it was a menstrual phase. After that, it is the follicular phase. Now, one thing also we should know, that why the blood is coming out. The blood will come out only in the case when the ovum is not fertilized. Why will the ovum will not be fertilized? Maybe because the sperms are not there and that will not lead to pregnancy. Only when it will not lead to pregnancy, the blood will come out of the female reproductive tract. And the first phase was menstrual phase. The second phase is the follicular phase. Now what happens during this phase? The primary follicles in the ovary, the primary follicles become into a fully mature Graafian follicle. There was a primary follicle into a fully mature Graafian follicle. And while this is happening, the endometrial lining, which got break down, regenerates itself through proliferation, and these changes are generally governed by the hormones in the pituitary and the ovary. Now, if we talk about during this phase, what happens? The LH and FSH, they generally increase and this stimulates the development and secretion of estrogen. During this phase, nearly at the middle, 14th day, what happens? There is a LH peak and FSH peak, which is also known as the LH surge. Now, the Graafian follicle release the ovum. The ovum is released. This is known as the ovulation phase. And after that, the next phase is the luteal phase. So we have the menstrual phase, the follicular phase. Now we have the luteal phase where the secretion is take place. This is also known as the secretory phase. After that, what happens? The Graafian follicle is now not there. The Graafian follicle gets converted into something which is known as the corpus luteum. Now this corpus luteum secretes a lot of progesterone, which is important from the endometrium. And why is it important? If the fertilization is taking place, the pregnancy is happening, the endometrium lining should be intact. So this is helped by the progesterone which is released over here. Now, in the absence of any fertilization, this corpus luteum degenerates. There is no fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates, and in this case, what happens? The blood will come out, and this will be the end of the fertilization cycle, and the new menstrual cycle will start from the next month. I have told you there are two processes in the starting, which is menarche, and then you have the menopause. Now I have told you that there are 200 to 300 million sperms are there, but only one sperm can enter the ovum. How does that happens? So there is a zona pellucida. There is a zona pellucida layer of the ovum. When one of the sperm is entering, what is helping the sperm to enter? The acrosome part. You remember when we were studying the sperms, we did study about the acrosome. With the help of acrosome, only once the sperm enters into the ovum. And why only one sperm entering the ovum? Because the zona pellucida is helping the ovum to block the additional entry of sperms inside the ovum. In this video, we have mostly covered a lot of things about the female and the male reproductive tract. In the next video, we'll study a little bit about how the implantation and fertilization is taking place and how the pregnancy and post-pregnancy things are getting managed in a very short video. Let's not make this video a bit longer than this. So if you like the video, you can give me the suggestions how we can go ahead, and for the next 75 days, I assure you that you will be kickstarting your NEET journey. You can see the Diwali lights dazzling behind me. It's high time you should start studying and be focused on the NEET examination. Let's crack the NEET examination. We'll meet you in the next video very soon. Subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.